All right, now this video is about the structure and function of the larynx, the laryngeal portion of the speech production uh, anatomy that we have. A lot of stuff happens here. It's all quite near and dear to my heart, metaphorically speaking. Physiologically, it's just as far as anyone else's. Um, because in my doctoral work, my PhD dissertation work, I did a lot of work with articulation, laryngeal articulations. Um, but we're not going to get too deep into that. We're going to cover the important stuff. Um, right, and we are going to be looking at some of the things that arise from laryngeal articulations in the coming weeks. It's really useful to secure our understanding of this part of the physiology now to build on as we get into things like phonation and different airstream mechanisms and whatnot. So to start off, there's a whole set of cartilages, or four main cartilages to form the main solid structure of the larynx. The thyroid cartilage, the cricoid cartilage that it sits on, the two arytenoid cartilages that sit atop the back end of the cricoid cartilage. And the way that these four cartilages are arranged against each other is really important to understanding how speech is controlled in the larynx, like how the larynx does what it does to control speech. And then there are various muscles and ligaments connecting them. And once you know the names of the cartilages and of the hyoid bone that sits atop the topmost cartilages, then the names of the muscles begin to make sense. Like you have the the cricothyroid muscle, for example, is a broad sheet of muscle connecting the front of the thyroid cartilage to the front of the cricoid cartilage. And the different sets of cricoarytenoid muscles connect the cricoid cartilage to the arytenoids in different ways that allow them to articulate, to move in particular ways, and so on. And again, the pictures and text of the book can do more for your understanding than me talking it through in this video. One other resource that we're gonna just pop into for a couple minutes here because I find it really, really helpful is Anatomy TV. And this is an online resource. It's available through the University of Alberta library system. And we can look there for a more in-depth and interactive way of exploring the larynx. And in fact, all the other anatomy we cover in this course. I'm putting the link in the description of this video, and let's just look. Here's what I get when I go to that link. It wants me to set up a profile. I'm not going to bother with that right now. I'm just going to continue on. I get this welcome page. As you can see, there's a lot of different parts of the anatomy that you can visit. I'm going to go to the search page and just say I want to see the larynx, and I get various options. I'm going to click the second one here because that's most interesting. It's popping up a new window. I went into my other screen, but I'm going to drag it over here. So here we see a nice clean picture of the cartilages of the larynx, and I can click and drag it around. Here we have the thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, and here's the two arytenoid cartilages at the back. I did fail to mention the epiglottic cartilage, or the epiglottis, which is also important, although it doesn't participate actively in many speech sounds. And there are other cartilages here. This is the top of the trachea down here. And if I go far enough, it'll spin a bit. There's a couple of the cuneiform and carniculate cartilages that sit atop the arytenoid cartilage too. So you can see how they interact, and you can spin it around, and you can also look at different layers. So I just added a layer. We have some ligaments, intrinsic laryngeal ligaments, cricotracheal ligament, thyrohyoid membrane. See, it's thyrohyoid, so it's telling me about the thyroid, connecting the thyroid to the hyoid. Along on the right, there's also more in-depth description of many of these structures. Okay. And you can look at more layers. You get some muscles, the thyroid muscle there that I just mentioned, a bunch of muscles around the back. Okay. And extra layers of muscles. And then you get some blood supply and whatnot, which we're not really going to talk about in this course. So I'm not going to go too far in there. There's a lot of stuff to explore there. There's some other things that you can find if you poke around. And I find that really helpful for getting that three-dimensional map of this anatomy into my head. Anything that's on a a printed sheet of paper, it's never going to give you the full depth. The only thing that'd be better than this is if you had a 3D model in front of you. And who knows, maybe you'll pick a lab assignment that actually involves building a 3D model. Um, yes. So that's, I don't know, I really, really enjoy that resource. You know, you'll notice in some of my written materials that I've used images from that Anatomy TV to populate some of these materials. Following the basic anatomical portion, there's extensive discussion in the textbook of the Bernoulli effect. This is the mechanism that enables vibration of the vocal folds. And at least for my part, it was understanding this process that really locked in use of the term vocal folds rather than the colloquial vocal cords. Um, what's wrong with calling them vocal cords? Well, a cord is like a string that vibrates going like in a guitar. And a fold is a very different structure. And once you understand the Bernoulli effect and how air flowing past the vocal fold sort of makes them move more like this than like a vibrating chord, it makes it hard to think of it as a chord. It makes it easier to use the term vocal fold, which is more popular among phoneticians. Um, we get various other aspects of how the vocal folds vibrate, the idea of the two mass model, cover body theory, flow separation theory, a lot of different perspectives that help us understand the real complexity of vocal fold vibration. Um, and we even get a look at the something that will, when we hit the acoustics portion of the course, uh, really form the basis of source filter theory and some of the acoustic principles that we'll use to understand that side of speech, the acoustic side of speech. Okay, so a really rich source of information. Obviously, of course, I think that this is quite a rich source of understanding languages just in the little uh, tiny larynx there. But it really is a foundational stuff that you need to understand the production of other sounds. So I hope that's helpful. Really do dig in and try to have some fun with Anatomy TV. Um, and you know, you could even look at the lung system and other systems that we cover later on, if you like. But the larynx, I find, is this is especially helpful for. That's all for this video.